PFM in New Orleans. We are Radio Null HIV with programming. That's right, programming dedicated to human rights and social justice. WHIVFM.org. We honor independent voices. We are not a radio station with a mission. We are a mission with the radio station. That is to end all wars. Welcome to COVID NoiseFilter, the daily hour-long show. Thank you so much for being here. Sorry for the late start. Both Doc Griggs and I, we're doing a bunch of stuff, and we're happy to be here. We have a great show planned for you, including the great Ed Fallon, who will be joining us in a moment. However, in the interim, I'm Mark Gallaudet, infectious disease doctor here in the lovely state of Louisiana in New Orleans, and sitting across the digital divide, I got it wrong again, sitting across the digital divide for me is my friend and yours. Say hello, Doc Griggs.
Hello, Doc Griggs. How are you?
I am doing fine, and jumping on to the show with us right now is my friend and yours, and that is, of course, the great Ed Fallon. Ed, how are you?
Well, I'm not great, but I'm good.
I referred to you as great on the Facebook post, so you better be great.
All right.
And before we continue, please plug some of your content, your shows, that sort of stuff, where people can find you.
Yeah, Fallon Forum. It's called Fallon, Fallon, like Jimmy Fallon. We're probably cousins. FallonForum.com, and we broadcast on WHIV. We also broadcast on 2 stations in Iowa and about 4 other stations around the country, and you can hear it as a podcast on my website as well. And yeah, I'd love to.
I went ahead and just put your website up again, and we'll be sure to plug you a few times during the show today.
Well. All right, thank you.
And Ed, I always like to also introduce you as a recovering politician. Do I
Right. I will have to take off at 5, by the way, so I don't know how late you go.
Got it. Whatever time you need to go, just let us know.
Okay.
All righty. Great. Well, let's get the show started. Doc Griggs, how are you doing? You and I have had a very busy day today. I can't hear you.
Yes, man. Like the fun has not ended. This thing, the numbers, the questions, the answers, the I don't knows, the we'll sees, the let's talk again tomorrow. Yeah, it's one of those type of days.
That's right. Yeah. What were you on the news today?
Was not on the news today. No, but you and I had today's radio day. We were with Grayling.
Radio day, right?
Yeah, we talked the leaks, and I mean the big concern today is a lot of people are concerned because the kids are going back to school, and the APA put their tracking out, and the numbers, there were 72,000 kids that tested positive last week, which was up from 33,000 the previous week, which is 85% increase. And that's not with all the kids in school, but we don't know how it's going to turn out, because if you remember last year, Ed, 2 guys that you might know were really against kids going in person and thinking that it was going to be a disaster last year, and we had to eat all kind of humble and crow pie because they did really well in the schools in spite of the numbers being up. So we just got our fingers crossed that the same thing can happen in light of the new virus. But it's a real world concern in spite of everything going on. We always want to protect our babies.
Absolutely. And in fact, I was just on one of the reasons why I was late was I was doing a quick consult and presentation, and with some of the school leaders here in Orleans Parish. And Eric, I swear to God, I got a question from one of the football coaches about tackle football. And I was very clear. I was like, I would not be doing tackle football. I'm not a parent. If I were, I would not allow my child to be playing tackle football right now. And they mentioned, and we're going to talk about it in the rundown today, and I definitely would love some of your feedback, Eric, and then, of course, Ed, yours, because you're a politico. But I was very clear. I am taking my leadership from Dr. Fauci, who finally spoke out loudly against Senator Rand Paul. And this football coach, well-meaning, said, listen, I'm following the guidelines that have been put out, and I'm doing this, I'm doing that, or whatever. And I said, at this point, I would not trust some of our elected leaders, the governors of Arkansas, of Florida, of Texas, and again, this is in the rundown, are applying and making recommendations that are non-scientific based at all. And in fact, we just saw the governor of Arkansas completely backtrack after he signed a law banning the mandate of masks, now realizing how important masks are. And so I was very clear to him, you listen, you do what you need to do. But right now, some of our elected leaders, not necessarily Louisiana, certainly here in Orleans Parish, but, around in the South have not been following the science. Eric, your thoughts?
So so Ed, as Mark Allen knows, I don't do politics. I do science, and I follow the science. All of the science is telling us, just like last year. Now, I played football. I'm a big football fan, the whole nine, and love for the kids to have that experience. However, I am not a proponent of going against the science. We're in an environment where we have 1,000 times the concentration of virus in the air right now. Whereas one person would be infected with, say, 10 viral particles, now it's 10,000. The concentration of virus, the ratio is 1,000 to 1. For each particle of the original virus that you might have in your nose living there, now it's 1,000, breathing in and out. Football is a collision sport. It's beyond a contact sport. And, of course, as any healthcare professional would tell you, the most protective thing would be the most conservative. So, again, people are going to find their way to live around it. But, if you ask a scientific answer, you want a scientific answer, be ready for the truth. So, I don't know.
Ed, your thoughts?
Well, yeah. Other than just wanting to say, go Tom Brady. Hey, well, the guy
coming right out of the gate. There's the
first. You got to like how he dissed Trump at the White House last week. Wasn't that sweet?
Oh, I didn't see that. What did he do?
Oh yeah, he gets up there. He's thanking Joe Biden for inviting them to the White House. Remember, he didn't go when Trump invited the Patriots after they won. So the Buccaneers got invited, and he's speaking, and he says, we won, but I think 40% of the country still doesn't think we won. And then he goes on to say, I've been playing for 21 years, and once there in Chicago, I forgot what down it was, and now they call me Sleepy Tom. Anyway, that's an aside. But to me, football. I'm not sure. If I had a kid these days, I'm not sure I'd want them playing football the way that.
There was that, of course.
To me, the greater danger in football is not the coronavirus, but permanent injuries, and especially head-to-head injuries. But I look at. I'm trying to wrap my mind around some of the conflicting information here. You've got, legitimate concerns. Then you've got people like Rochelle Walensky. She's the director of the CDC. And it says, quote, communities that are fully vaccinated are generally faring well. And about 90% of all the cases and about 95 that resulted in hospitalization or death were among unvaccinated people. So it seems like for those who have been vaccinated, some level of normalcy makes sense. I know that you can also still be transmitting it, and thus you don't want to infect other people. But at some point, the burden of protection for something like this falls on the individual.
Well, these are children, so these are 4 to 14. So
right, I get that, yeah.
And here in Louisiana or in the U.S., you can only be vaccinated 12 and above. But I guess the other point, what I wanted you to comment on, Ed, was kind of really looking at how we're seeing our elected leaders are just not following the science, and they're instituting laws right now that are based on belief than they are based on actual science.
Yeah. Well, and part of it, to some extent, it doesn't help to have the FDA sending kind of mixed messages on whether Pfizer is fully approved or not. For example, the Pfizer vaccine. I read today that they are going to be announcing that it is fully approved in September, but people are confused, I think. And I know that most of the opposition is not confusion. It's just people just don't want to do it. They don't want to be told to wear a mask. They don't want to be told to get a vaccine. I get that. So that's freedom. But there has been the CDC, the FDA. There could have been a clearer consistency of messaging that might have helped in some cases.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I still think, and I hear you, and in that leaked document, I think we talked about this on your show. Did we talk about the leaked document on the show? We've been talking about it here, how the CDC, that Washington Post article where
right.
that leaked article, the slide deck, in which the CDC actually admitted that they had been doing a bad job with communication. And even as they were talking about they did a bad job with communications, one of the things they were talking about was we need to do a better job with communications. And these are the examples of things that we should do to do a better job. And the examples were horrible. They were like, even still, like whatever the messaging was. And so, yes, there's a lot to do with the CDC. And yes, there's a lot of problems there. But I just feel that when you have and we're going to talk about here in the rundown, the governor of Florida just willy-nilly just make things up and don't Fauci my Florida. Did you see the stuff that he's selling on his website?
No, I didn't see that. No. What is he selling?
He's selling swag on his website. And like one of them will be like, don't Fauci my Florida. How can you drink a beer with a mask on? These t-shirts and this sort of stuff that he's doing. And it's just like, you have the governor of, like I mentioned a moment ago, of Arkansas, who's backtracking, who signed into law a masking ban, but then turns around and walks it back. And today says, well, it either has to go to the Supreme Court or the courts, the state Supreme Court, or it has to, I forget what the other option was that he said they're gonna have to do a new law to overturn that. These are just ridiculous things, and we're being guided by people who I sometimes feel aren't serious about governing. And it's just a concern for me.
Well, maybe Governor DeSantis has found a new way to raise funds for his campaign. Selling anti-vaccine swag.
That's exactly what he's doing. Eric, can you take over for a quick second? I got to let my cat in. Eric, will you just take over?
Absolutely. So my cousin lives in Florida, and he's in public health. It's just a fight to do the right thing in spite of, it was really interesting to watch I think it was a genuine and sincere apology and a backpedal by the governor of Arkansas. He looked at the numbers and it was like, oh my, what have I done?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's exactly right. I wish it wasn't happening. Obviously.
Yeah. One of the things that Mark Allen and I talk about is that science always wins. It's undefeated. You can't beat it.
Science will always win. There's no question about it.
Right.
I do want to. We're going to start with the numbers today, Ed, because I do have some stuff here in Iowa. So I wanted to present to you your state as well. Usually we start and we go through a bunch of stories, and then we get to the epi. We're going to go in reverse today, just so I want to make sure that I know you have a hard out at 5 o'clock. So I want to make sure that you get to see some of the Iowa numbers that we have. But Iowa's doing good. I don't know what's the special sauce that you guys are having. I don't know, but
we just eat a lot of sweet corn.
No,
I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. We're less densely populated than a lot of places.
Right.
I think that's going to start changing when the mass exodus from the West begins, because there's no more water out there. Seriously, that's what my blog is going to be about this week. But I don't know for sure. It may just be dumb luck. It could be. We just get done with something called rag brine. You know what this is? It's a 400 or 500 mile bike ride from one end of the state all the way across from the west to the east side of the state, and 30,000 people jump on this thing. I know it's outdoors, but it's a big crowd. It's a big and intimate crowd, and we're about to have another big and intimate crowd here at the Iowa State Fair. There'll be well over 1 million people attending that thing. Oh yeah, it's huge.
Oh yeah, so that's so enjoy what I'm about to show you. It's coming. It's going to come in about 10 minutes. So wait 10 minutes. We'll get to the Iowa numbers, because take a snapshot of it, because you're not going to see it. When are the 1 million people getting together this weekend?
No, it's an 11-day event. It starts next Thursday. It runs for 10 days, 10 or 11 days. Yeah. Well, you're not going to come and join us?
No. Are you going?
I don't know yet. Normally, my busiest time at the state fair, for two reasons I go to the state fair, mainly. One is to bother presidential candidates, and we won't have that many this year. Two, enter the accordion competition. ideally play a Cajun piece of music, and ideally win. But
in fact, that's right. Was that we forgot to tell your claim to fame story? One of your many claim to fame stories was that at the Iowa State Fair. Was that last year when Joe Biden told you to vote for somebody else?
that was not. That was actually in January. It was just immediately before the caucuses. Yeah.
Right.
Grab me by the lapels, poke me a few times, go vote for somebody else. I told him I was going to vote for him. I kept my word. I voted for Joe. Anyway.
Aha, excellent. And
one thing I say about Joe Biden is years ago after I ran for governor, we played pool. We spent an hour together, just him and me and a couple other staffers, and we played pool, and he beat me. And so I've told him I want a rematch. He said he would give me a rematch, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
Yeah, I bet. And the reason why he told you to vote for somebody else is that you talked to him about the pipeline, right?
Yeah, about the pipeline, the Dakota Access Pipeline specifically, and oil pipelines generally, and climate change more broadly. And we've been talking to him about this all over the state for a year, and I think he just got tired of it and just kind of took it out on me.
Hey, Jack, go vote for somebody else.
Yeah, well, he called somebody else Jack.
Excellent. All right.
Well, let's go ahead. Push-ups.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started here. And I want to make sure that you get to see some of these numbers before we go. Globally, we have surpassed 200 million known cases. That's known. And look at this. The number of cases are still going up. 614,941 yesterday. 10,057 people died. 7 people died per minute in the last 24 hours. Look at that. I mean, we are really on track to surpass this so-called, what wave is that? This is the first, second, third, fourth wave. So that was this was the alpha wave right here. And I imagine that here, this will be this will be Delta. This is completely being fueled by Delta. So some of the big updates here is, and this is in our rundown too, the WHO has called for a moratorium on booster shots. And largely because you have countries like Israel, Russia, and Germany who are giving out these booster vaccines, these third doses of vaccines. Israel is vaccinating. I think Israel is vaccinating young people. Is Israel? I think Eric, check me on this. Is Israel vaccinating people 5 to 11, or somebody is?
I thought I saw that. Let me check it real quick.
Yeah.
But I thought so.
Yeah, and then they're also vaccinating. They're also vaccinating those that are immunocompromised. And of course, here we have that this is all being driven by the Delta virus. So we are seeing a really rapid increase, and this will peak out, likely, very, very likely to surpass the so-called alpha variant of
yeah, on July 27th, it said the health ministry told Israel healthcare providers that they can administer the vaccine to children age 5 to 11 who had serious background illnesses that would make them more vulnerable.
Yeah. So, however,
the high probability of serious illness.
Yeah. So I don't know how to interpret that, but we are seeing, of course, deaths are starting to go up, as you can see as well, and of course, as we talked about in the past, that death is a lagging indicator. But look at this. We had the highest number of deaths just, what was that? Just somewhere in early August. We are in early August, probably late July, exceeding in one day more than 20,000 deaths. So something that we just need to recognize, that this is also a more virulent strain as well. And that's largely because, as Doc Griggs was saying, there's more virus being emanated. For every one virus, we refer to it as virions. For every one virion that you got with the strain that emerged out of Wuhan or the alpha variant, you have now 1,000 times that, and more virus does equate to more severe illness. So something to think about as well. And here, this is a slide that I've been incorporating now, and what we are seeing is in red is the US. So you can see we were top in December. We really weren't affected by the alpha variant, strangely enough. I'm not sure why. Maybe the country was being vaccinated. Maybe we were being maxed and vaxxed. Likely, perhaps, I don't know. But boy, oh boy, you can see we are driving the globe in terms of Delta cases right now. And so that's just something that's happening. And feel free, guys, to interrupt. Ed, as always,
Well,
feel free to.
let me ask you. I mean, we've got the Greek alphabet is pretty long. We've got lambda coming. We can go all the way down to omega, I suppose. And what point does this end and life get back to normal? I think that's what's on a lot of people's minds. At what point do we get to live a more quote normal life?
It's gonna. Eric, what was the number that I told you at the very beginning of the outbreak? How long this was going to last for?
It was like 5 years, 7 years, something. I told you stop saying that. You're scaring people. Like
right, 2024, right?
24, 25, yeah. But I don't even. It depends. Like with the way things are going, Ed, I really don't. I don't know. Like I can't see for the foreseeable future anytime where we won't at least have a masks. And the concept of vaccines against some variant or COVID, I can't see that in the foreseeable future. I can see us adapting.
Okay, so what's changed? What's changed in the world where we should expect this new normal?
Well, I mean, we're going to be masking. We're going to be conscientious of crowds. We're going to be constantly looking for new variants. Like you said, we have a new variant right around the corner, just like we have those the hurricanes that line up in the Gulf, right? We get one after the other. I have a feeling. And what was the name, Eric, that you told me there was a name for it when they all line up like that? It started.
I forgot the name. Yeah,
it was like a Z or something.
Yeah, it was
an odd word. Yeah, it was an odd word, but when they all line up, so that's what our normals are going to start being at, is that we're going to start seeing these line up. And the reason why, and it's really important, and you'll appreciate this, is because we are experiencing something that people are referring to now as vaccine apartheid, right? The same reason why you're seeing WHO saying, please don't start giving boosters. The globe hasn't been vaccinated yet. The middle income and low income countries are vaccinated at about 1 to 2% in total, right? And until we start getting more people vaccinated regularly. In fact, we should have vaccinated the globe at once, because all we're doing now is just playing whack-a-mole. And for every one person who gets coronavirus, their body now becomes a petri dish to start kicking out new variants. And that's what happens. And we've seen many clinical studies that show any one person who's immunosuppressed can actually develop the coronavirus variants that we're seeing. And there was a very elegant study just recently, I think it was the New England Journal, person with HIV, poorly controlled, not on medication, end-stage HIV, which is now what we used to refer to as AIDS. They were just constantly culturing virus out of them, and what they were finding was the development of these variants. So it can happen here in the U.S., it can happen in South America, which is where Lambda is coming from, which is coming from
Peru, I think you said.
Peru. The P1 variant emerged out of Brazil. So of course, the Alpha emerged out of the UK. So, and then of course, I think the Gamma emerged out of South Africa. That was the one that I was concerned about. But the one now that we're super concerned about, and we've been talking about, is certainly what's going to be happening with Lambda. And this is going to be very, very concerning. Real quickly, just to get to a quick comment here, Fetty says that, so we're missing the chance of eliminating COVID, which leaves us no other choice but to learn how to coexist with it. 100% agree. The coexistence lesson doesn't have to be this difficult. Too many people are clinging to delusional COVID information, fueled, hang on, I gotta read the rest, COVID information, fueled by opportunistic leaders who don't see our health and safety from COVID as a high priority. This denial of reality and science is baffling. That's true. That was exactly what I was mentioning a moment ago. Absolutely. So long-winded answer, Ed, I don't know. I don't know when that's going to happen. I don't know. Hey, Ed, can you just pick up for a second? Somebody's knocking at my door. Hang on one quick second. Sorry.
Is it the cat? Oh my gosh. Whatever happened to your cat? I was hoping to see that cat show up on the screen here, but I guess not. Well, here I am on my own with two doctors. Yeah, my concern is, and not just what's next, not just what's next in terms of COVID variants, but what other diseases, what other pandemics are on the horizon, and at some point, you can't. I know you can't predict all these things. And I know we have our world is transforming right now under climate change.
Well, and that's the big issue, is that we're going to start seeing new pandemics and new organisms as a result of climate change. I mean, we're going to start to see organisms become more virulent. They're going to, and if this is something you're interested in doing more of, and because I know that you're a climate change, climate science person, and I'm an infectious disease person, but one of the fields of medicine that are exciting, and you use air quotes around that, is how infectious diseases are going to change with climate change. You're going to see organisms start to move into from the southern hemisphere. They're going to start moving more into the northern hemisphere as it starts to get warmer, because they're going to be able to continue to compete in those new ecological niches. And because there's going to be plenty of human wood to infect, because there's going to be no antibodies for malaria, for dengue, for some of these illnesses that we usually typically associate with being in the southern hemisphere. So that is a really interesting field, and something that not enough people are talking about, is the intersection of infectious diseases and continued pandemics in the setting of climate change.
So Ed, I had to step away, but one of the things I need to sprinkle, and this will catch Mark Allen off guard because this is not typical for me. You're asking about the new world. It's going to involve a lot of a new and improved us, because we're getting better. We're getting wiser. We adapt. Just like the virus evolves, so do we. And those that don't evolve are left behind, or they're gone. And that's called natural selection. We've had some amazing things come out of this pandemic, the whole messenger RNA technology, and adapted to be able to use for vaccines. We have this restream technology. 2 years ago, Mark Allen would have just been telling me about you while I'm sitting in the radio studio, and maybe you would have called in, but we wouldn't have been able to do this. So we will evolve. We will adapt. The kids that are following behind us, we've already created a new world where they could have less pathogens in the air because they're accustomed to wearing masks. This is Mark Allen's dream: washing their hands, fist pound,
elbow bumping instead of shaking hands.
Namaste.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it's all of it. So the point is, we're going to get better, and we can even see it in this. The panic. I will say this: it's frustrating that it's almost an apathy that we felt, and that's why we're in this predicament with this variant. But the panic and the cortisol level, the stress hormone levels are down. I mean, it's a more matter-of-fact conversation I'm having with folks about what do I need to do. I know that here's the science. What can I do to help you out with their messaging and help to get back to normal? So as time goes on, so imagine if it was 1918, or let's say 1919, and you asked Dr. Derry and I, you asked us, well, what does the future look like? And we said, well, or do we see a foreseeable future without influenza in it? And we said no. And here we are 100 years later, we're still dealing with it. And as it's evolved, we've evolved. We're resilient. We're strong too.
Eric, it's such a good point, Eric. I'm so sorry. That influenza is such a brilliant observation, because not only are we still seeing influenza now, we're still dealing with the same strain from 1918. When you get an influenza shot, you have H1N1 variant in your influenza shot that you get every year. So it's such a devastatingly good point, Eric, because we are going to, so again, to answer your question, I think that's what Eric is trying to do. COVID is going to be with us. In fact, I foresee a time where you're going to go in and get an injection, and it'll be a conglomerate of like a flu. It'll be called the Fluvid show, or the Flovid shot, or something. That'll be a combination of influenza and COVID that are as a result of the mRNA. But those are some great points that you brought up, Eric. The fact that we can restream like this, like today, I was in several meetings that there's no way I could have done all those meetings in one day, because I had just been driving around from one place to the other, meeting with people. And the idea of doing that now just seems totally ridiculous, quite frankly.
It's always fun to eat the cake. The drag is having to live through the making of it. So at the end of this, we'll be fine. But right now, it just, oh man, it's the labor and work of living through it. There's pressure, and we're getting. You talk about climate. Everything is pressuring us to evolve or either adapt or become extinct.
Yep. Very, very good points, Eric. Thank you. So just getting back to the U.S., our number of cases, so we're surpassing 36 million known deaths. Our barometer here, Ed, as I'm sure we've shown you in the past, is that the American Civil War killed 750,000 soldiers, estimated, of course, over the course of 4 years. And that's the barometer that we're using. We're at 631,008 deaths. There's no question that it has surpassed just with unknown cases. But Eric, I tried to find that article. Can you just briefly, you called me up today. What was the University of Washington? What were their projections moving forward?
I'm going to read it verbatim, that by the middle of this month, we could see numbers, cases of up to 300,000 a day by August. And here we are.
Wow.
300,000.
With a mortality rate of 2%.
Because death is a lagging indicator, 1,500 people dying, sadly, of COVID a day.
1,500.
And that's mostly unvaccinated people, correct?
Yes.
With Delta,
the vast
yes.
majority are vaccinated. Yeah.
Yes.
And am I right that among those who are dying, 5% or so are in their 60s and 70s? Or
I thought you were going to say vaccinated. I think those that are dying. Eric, do you know about?
Younger.
I think it's a younger generation. Yeah.
You're going to see the most vulnerable no matter what. And again, we talk about natural selection. That's just going to happen. The most vulnerable and that are unprotected, you're going to see that. But it's getting younger and younger. And I had the stats in my head. I just haven't had much sleep of the average age. It's moved down considerably from the elderly.
Yeah, absolutely.
The average age of infection has moved down, or the average age of death?
Both.
Everything. Both. The whole thing is just shifting over. We're seeing a significant shift. And I know that we are speaking to Ed Fallon. You can find more information about Ed and his shows, his podcast, and his great blog at fallonforum.com. I know, Ed, that you do have a heart. I do want to try to get through some of these numbers real quickly. Just look at some of these. The U.S. is just on fire. Eric, look at that rate change. I mean, look at Florida, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama. What links all of these states right here? I wonder. Oh, right, they're all in the South, right? And unfortunately, these are states that where the state leaders are just not science-oriented. They're not following the science. And here you can see these are some of the outcomes as a result of that. Cases are up 46.1%. Deaths are up. Hospitalizations are up. Test positivity needs to be below 5%. It's 9.3. And I just want to show you this. We've been following the CDC numbers as well. These are looking at 7-day case rates per 100,000. It was 29.2 about 3 weeks ago. You can see it's slowly going up, 58.6. These numbers move very, very slow. It went from, on August 2nd, it went from 133 per 100,000 to 178 per 100,000 in 1 day, overnight, Eric. Look at how this one day that jumped. This is insane. I mean, these are like vital signs for us. This is like, but I can't impress. This is like somebody who has a fever 104 Fahrenheit. I mean, this is a really, really, really bad sign moving forward. And of course, you could just see our cases are just going up significantly with tests going up, hospitalizations going up. We're not nearly as vaccinated as we should be. Unfortunately, when you look at the cases per region, Louisiana is just on fire. You can see we're the #1 state. In fact, if Louisiana were a country, we're going to get to that in a second. If Louisiana were a country, we would be the #1 spot in the world right now with the highest number of cases. And I think that may even actually be the next slide. Here we go. Before we get to Louisiana, here you are in Iowa. So let's do Iowa real quickly. You guys peaked out a little bit early, which is really kind of surprising that you guys peaked out the way that you did. But you guys have very little low cases, but you guys are definitely going up, and cases are definitely going up. Your vaccination rate, 18 and above, is 62%. That's good. 65 and above is 87. Those are great vaccination rates as well. And you can see that testing is going up a little bit, probably reflecting that more and more people are getting sick, and hospitalizations are going up as well. So you look at this, your 14-day change increase is 158%. So Iowa is really starting to take off. The fact that 1 million people are going to be at the Iowa State Fair is not good at all. You can see you're at 14.6 as opposed to Louisiana, we're at 80 per 100,000. It's 14.6 per 100,000. Your infection rate is above 1. So that means you could see when we talk about exponential rate, you can see that anything that's above 1, you're going to start to see increases like you're seeing right here. And again, you're starting to see increases in hospitalization. Your test positivity rate is bad, but everybody's is bad. It needs to be under 5%. That means that not enough people are being tested. And then lastly about Iowa, you guys stopped reporting daily numbers. So there's a number of states that have stopped reporting daily numbers as well.
So how do you explain the big difference between Iowa and Arkansas? Arkansas is not that far away. All that's between us is Missouri. Why the big difference?
I mean, I think that is the population density the same?
I think so. We're 3.1 million people here. Arkansas population, I can look that up real quick.
I would also imagine that you guys have very high rates of vaccinations amongst those that are over 65. Yeah. I think that has a lot to do with it. Okay. And I would.
Yeah, we're almost the same population as Arkansas.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think
a lot of vaccinations.
I would imagine it's probably a combination of vaccinations. And how are people from Iowa in terms of non-pharmacologic interventions? Are people staying away from, I mean, obviously you guys are having a state fair with over 1 million people. So, but how are you guys in terms of making sure that everybody's masked, that making sure that people are not going to big events, that sort of stuff?
No, there's been very little.
Yeah, don't worry, Ed. You'll catch up.
Yeah,
you'll catch up.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
You're gonna get there real soon, especially after. Think about this. Think about what happened in South Dakota after the biker rally, right? Which, by the way, should be coming up soon. We're gonna be making fun of that there really soon, aren't we, Eric? That biker. I think it happens either in August or September. I forget what, but remember the big uptick.
Which Sturgis?
Sturgis, yeah.
I think it's August.
This whole thing is like a drunk Groundhog Day.
It's like combining Groundhog Day and St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, it's like a drunk Groundhog Day, except every day Bill Murray wakes up with a hangover that just won't go away.
Absolutely. And you can. I need to go at Fallon. FallonForum.com. Please look him up. He's on WHIV. Great talk show. Has a great podcast. Really, really a brilliant thinker. He's got a beautiful blog in which he really, dude, you owe me that $50. In which you can Venmo me at MA Dairy. Really, he's a great writer and really walks the walk. Literally walks the walk and talks the talk. And he's walked across the state several times, I think, right?
Across the country, actually.
Absolutely. So look at this. Sturgis starts Friday.
Yeah. Same as our state fair. We'll see what happens.
Wow.
Right.
And please, we love you.
Stay safe, Ed. Please stay safe.
Yeah, I'm sorry that we
Take
started
care.
late. Apologies.
No worries. Bye-bye.
Stay safe, buddy. Stay safe.
Bye-bye. All right, Eric, let's just continue through the numbers here. Look at this. Louisiana has a higher rate of COVID-19 infections than any country in the world. And look at this. Here's the other thing I wanted to show you. Look at this. According to the New York Times, these are the 10 counties or parishes with the highest number of recent cases. Yep. You have one in Texas. You have one in Mississippi. You have one in Florida. The rest of them, Tangipahoa, Accession, Lafourche, St. Charles, St. James, Lafourche, sorry, St. James, and then Terrebonne. That is, I mean, look at Louisiana, and you have Orleans Parish, right? And then I think this is Plaquemines here. But look at all of the surrounding parishes here that are all just very, very, very poorly vaccinated.
Yeah, we got work to do.
We have a lot of work to do, but just to kind of show you here, if we were a country, we'd be the highest country in the world with infections, 4,753 cases. That's down a little bit from 6,000, so I guess that's good, maybe, I don't know. Look at this. Look at this, Eric. We have already peaked out and blown past the winter wave, right? Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. And look, we had number of cases just a couple days ago where we blew past 10,000. I think it was 11,000 cases was one of the days that we weren't broadcasting. You can see tests are going up, obviously. Look at hospitalizations, man. It has a very good risk of surpassing.
Outpacing anything that we've seen, to be quite honest.
Right.
Yeah.
Deaths are going up as well. Our 14-day change, 186%. Deaths is that deaths? Yeah, deaths or tests have gone up. Hospitalizations have gone up 188%, and deaths have come up 140%. And this is just unbelievable. When you look at where we are still in severe, but we went up from 88.6 per 100,000 to 93.1. Our infection rate was 1.5. It's 1.4. Test positivity rate is still really, really unacceptably high. And again, according to this map, you can see the cases, the areas that are the hottest here all surround Orleans Parish. This is why we're seeing so many hospitalizations in Orleans, because we're having to take those patients. When you look at Orleans Parish, look at this, Eric. We went from very high to severe. Yep. And so 72.4 per 100,000 to 8. Our infection rate went from 1.3 to 1.4. Test positivity rate is 13. It's super high. So in terms of where we're at right now, when you look at those numbers, I also then want to bring to your attention that they are going to have White Linen Night here just in a couple days. I mean, traditionally that has brought 20,000 people to Julia Street, and that's not obviously going to be the case today. But it'll probably be a lot shorter. It'll be probably something like 5,000 is what I predict. But yeah, takes on that at all, or?
No, I mean, again, man, we've lived this. We've seen this movie before. We've done this, and we're in the thick of it. All these gatherings are too much. I mean, we know the end result. We know what to expect, almost to the day.
Absolutely. All right, so let's. What do we got? We got about 15 minutes, so let's kind of go over some stories that are in the rundown. We talked about we just hit 70% of at least one at least adults having at least one shot. Listen to this statistic, Eric. You ready for this?
Yep.
The 7-day average of daily cases in the U.S. has now surpassed the peak seen this time last summer when there were no vaccines. Data, the CDC is at odds with Johns Hopkins in terms of new cases are trending up and down. The 7-day average of deaths are 300 per day, though it's far below the peak of last year. But as you mentioned, it's going to be more than that.
Yep.
In a big change, a Gallup poll shows more Americans now say the pandemic in the U.S. is getting worse. As recently as 89%, they said things were getting better. However, what's that? Oh, yeah.
June, we thought things were until.
Right. Yeah, no, it's still crazy. Hang on one second, someone's texting me. All right. Japanese researchers say that the Lambda variant is not being taken seriously enough. Their study showed to be highly infectious and more resistant to vaccines than the original version. They found 3 mutations in Lambda spike protein help it resist neutralization by vaccine-induced antibodies. It's not clear if the variant is more dangerous than the Delta variant. Guys, like right around the corner is Lambda. So you're going to start to see Delta's it's going to burn very brightly, and then I'm afraid that in its wake, we're going to end up with Lambda. More than 385,000 people attended the 4-day Lollapalooza Festival in Chicago. The head of the health department says she expects to see cases associated with the event rise. I would 100% agree. But the mayor defended the festival, saying, we've been able to do it because of vaccinations, but only 52% of all Chicagoans are fully vaccinated. I think that's kind of an unfair story, because I think to get in, you had to be fully vaccinated. And I think you had to prove it. Speaking of proof, in New York City, you will have now to show proof of vaccination if you want to dine indoors at a restaurant, to see a show, or go to the gym. It's the first big city in the U.S. to put restrictions like that in place, and they'll be rolled out over the course of weeks. The mayor said we want to what we want to nail is bluntly showing how much life is better when you're vaccinated. You have more freedom. What's your take on that? I just
agree with it. I mean, it's, again, the science is the science. The numbers are the numbers. I mean, this, you know, if you don't want to get vaccinated, this is an infectious disease. Dot.
Right. Right. Absolutely. All right. The American Academy of Pediatrics said almost 7,000 children and teens caught COVID last week. Let's just say that again, 72, and I was getting a question about whether or not we should have tackle football. 72,000 children and teens caught COVID-19 last week, a substantial increase from a week earlier. The definition of a child varies by state, but generally includes up to 17 or 18 children and teens, represented 19% of reported cases in the latest weekly data. Kids under 12 are still not eligible for any of the 3 vaccines. Wow, that is unbelievable. Wow. Going international, WHO says that in Africa, fatalities have surged by 80% in the last 4 weeks. And this is because people in Africa, we did not do vaccinations in Africa. This breaks my heart. China suspended flights, trains, canceled pro basketball games, and announced mass testing in Wuhan yesterday. Cases are far more widespread than China has dealt with since the beginning of the outbreak. So there you go. And China has among the world's most authoritarian and compliant lockdown testing measures, but cases continue to pop up. So if the unvaccinated don't blame themselves for the recent surge in cases, who do they blame? An Axios poll found that most, 37%, blame people traveling to the U.S. from other countries. Ugh. Xenophobic, of course. 27% blame the mainstream media because somehow the mainstream media is giving them COVID. I don't know. 23% blame Americans traveling to other countries. Again, there's a xenophobia. And 21% blame Joe Biden. Only 10% of the unvaccinated blame the unvaccinated. Among the vaccinated, they of course blame the unvaccinated for the Delta variant surge at 79%, followed by 36% who blame the former president, who left the office 7 months ago, and almost no one blames the power and nature of the virus itself.
Right. Were it not for that, we wouldn't have this conversation.
It's insane. All right, I will get to these. I'll save the comments for the last 5 minutes. Let's see. The global cases have surpassed 200 million. We said that. Moratorium on COVID vaccines. Israel reintroduces some virus restrictions. China grapples with the worst outbreak in a year. Here we go. This is in the rundown. FDA grant could full approval of Pfizer's vaccine in early September. We'll talk about that. I do want to talk about the Offspring's drummer if we get to it. He wasn't necessarily dropped from the band over being unvaccinated. He actually stepped away, but we'll talk about that because he has Guillain Barré's, and there is a potential for not with mRNA vaccines, but with the Johnson & Johnson to develop Guillain-Barré. Unvaccinated young adults are getting sicker faster. Doctors in the USA. We'll try to get to that in a second. So let's get to some real quick stories here. The first one here is the one I think is the one that everybody's asking us to talk about. With the surge of coronavirus infections ripping through much of the United States, FDA has accelerated its timetable to fully approve the Pfizer-BioNTech coronavirus vaccine aiming to complete the process by the start of next month. So that's really, really great news. Of course, as we all know, the Pfizer vaccine has an EUA associated, so that's an emergency use authorization, and a number of universities, hospitals, the Defense Department in San Francisco are expected to mandate inoculations once a vaccine is fully approved. Final approval could help mute misinformation about the safety of vaccines and clarify legal issues with the mandate. Doc?
Man. Yeah, so
I mean, this is something that you and I get asked all the time. I think we even got asked today about it. Did we? I can't even remember if we talked about it on the radio show.
FDA approval and the approval process, and no steps skipped. Once things are approved, it'll hopefully it would motivate. The hope is that it'll motivate a lot of people to get vaccinated. I hate to say it, but the practical reality is it'll just make them go to something else.
Oh yeah. But what they're going to be able to do is you're going to start to see mandates like the VA mandating, like the hospital in Houston mandated, like universities. They're going to be able to start mandating vaccines once there is full FDA approval. And I have a feeling that's essentially one of the things that's going to be coming down.
You know what's interesting is that this is. You would know better than I. I'm on par with one of the most deadly communicable diseases in this short period of time that we've had. And the fact that we've mandated vaccines for others that haven't had this level of damage is just, it's interesting. I'll say it. It's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And hundreds of millions of doses have been given of the vaccine. And people have been doing very, very well. All right, here's I'm a music fan, and although I'm not a fan of Offspring, I do like some of their music. But it's what this is showing, and later on today I'll be talking with other musicians here in Orleans Parish, that it is now becoming and I think the musicians are regulating themselves. Certainly that's what they're trying to do here in Orleans. They're trying to start a coalition of musicians. I've been asked to join for obvious reasons, not just because I play music, but because I'm an infectious disease doctor. And so that you start having musicians that are going to start regulating themselves, so they're not going to play in clubs that don't have vaccine mandates at the door. They're going to be playing. They're going to make sure that everybody in their band is vaxxed and masked at all times. So this is a great thing. That's what happened with this drummer from The Offspring. He has a rare neurologic condition that's associated with Johnson & Johnson called Guillain-Barré syndrome. And he was advised by his physician to not take the vaccines, given his history of Guillain-Barré. I am not 100% clear about that bit of advice, given that the mRNA vaccines are not associated with Guillain-Barré. But even still, I still think that the headlines in which this is that I've seen about this, because it's hitting my feed a lot, and I just think that it's just unfair. He's choosing here. He says the risk outweighed the benefit, so he's choosing to not be there. But it's nice to see that musicians are kind of regulating themselves now.
He's at risk. Yeah, you're right. That's just not fair. Right.
Right. The headlines are blaming the Offspring, the band, for it, when really he's the one. He's choosing not to do it. So just going through headlines really quickly. Los Angeles Council members proposed proof of COVID-19 vaccination in indoor spaces. We saw that New York just did it. So LA County will develop an ordinance that will require people to show proof of having received at least one dose of the vaccine for shopping, concerts, movies, and sporting events. So this is great. What's the likelihood that you think this is going to happen in Louisiana?
It'll be a fight. I think it'll be a fight.
I would be shocked if we did do it. I would love to see that happen here.
Yeah, LA is a city. I could see it happening here, but I don't know. I think it'd be a fight statewide. We'll see.
Freedom.
We'll see.
All right. 200 million cases of COVID reported. Look at this. United States accounts for 18% of total. India, 16. What's that?
Can't see it.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. U.S. accounts for 18% of total cases. Three countries account for more than 40% of cases. Now, you tell me what links these countries. The U.S., India, and Brazil account for a total of 40%. I wonder what links those countries. This is what happens when leaders do not believe in science. All right. Enough said there. As the debate around school mask mandates heat up, local health officials fear for their safety. Eric, they're still beating up on local health officials. People are quitting. This is ridiculous. Yeah.
People are getting death threats.
They're getting death threats. It's unbelievable. CDC ensemble forecasts project new COVID-19 deaths likely to increase over the next 4 weeks. Of course, Doc Griggs talked about that. University of Washington. This is the CDC's, and you can see deaths are going way up, and according to what that looks like. Here, Florida governor's office holds strong on allowing parents to make masking choices for students. That's insane. That's insane. And an executive Friday threatening to withhold state funding to any school that implements a mask mandate.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not fair. It's not fair.
No. I mean, it's just exhausting. Like,
yep.
It's beyond cognitive dissonance. I don't know what is the term for this.
I don't know. It's a great, and I forgot. I actually had the answer right here. I forgot that I put this in there. It was the last story. Louisiana governor says he's not looking into vaccine passport requirement for the state. Ah! What are we going to do?
What exactly is a vaccine? You know, the true that vaccine passport. I mean, it's being done. I mean, they're doing it at bars, and they're doing it. You know, everywhere you're talking about proof of vaccination. I'm assuming that's what the vaccine passport is, correct?
Yes, that's what they mean by vaccine passports. It's basically your LA wallet that says vaccination.
Yeah, that has it on it. Okay.
Right. We have a couple more minutes left. Let me just get to this. Most of the COVID-19 anti-vaccine misinformation and conspiracy theories originated from just 12 people. Yes, I think we've talked about that. Based on a report by the Center for Countering Digital Hate, cited by the White House this week, the Center for Countering Digital Hate, a UK-US nonprofit, non-governmental organization, analyzed 812,000 Facebook posts and tweets and found 65% came from the disinformation dozen. Among the dozens are physicians who embrace pseudoscience. I'm afraid to say one of them is an osteopath out of Chicago, a bodybuilder, a wellness blogger, a religious zealot, and of particular note, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's also linked to vaccines to autism and 5G broadband, cellular networks to the coronavirus pandemic. Kennedy has been taken off Instagram and not Facebook. There was a time when Robert F. Kennedy, who is a brilliant attorney and also has really done great lawsuits in terms of environmental health, and he got pulled down that rabbit hole, unfortunately. Lastly, just to wrap up here, Mignon says people were climbing over and through the fence of Lollapalooza. So okay, got it. So there has to be vax to attend. All right, well, there you go. On that uplifting note, as we wrap up the show, you guys are the smartest audience ever. As always, we appreciate you guys. We're looking to do a show on Friday. Do you have any conflicts on Friday?
Nope. Conflicts, we're good.
All right, so we'll definitely be back on Friday for a show. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we love you guys. Thank you so much. We couldn't do this without you. Check your fit, get moving.
Wash up, mask up, separate, vaccinate, take the shot.